Hello, Dad. This is Jay Warren. This is the Dadhood Journey podcast, and today's topic is this: a series of firsts. Let's do it.
Hi, my name's Nico, and you're listening to my dad, Jay Warren. This is the Dadhood Journey podcast. Thanks for listening.
Yep. All right, so in a continuing episode series of info for you new dads, brand new dads that are probably in their pregnancy right now, or you're in the pregnancy right now waiting for a baby to arrive, I wanted to give a bunch of information to you, kind of pre-frame things, plant seeds, have some information available for you for when you're in that mode. And I talked about the very first night that you're alone with your baby and how overwhelming that can be. I talked about the first few days and nights, the first few days and weeks that you're going to be experiencing with your kiddo and some things to expect. And today I wanted to talk about a series of firsts. And this is going to seem obvious, but with a newborn, everything's new. They haven't done anything, right? And you haven't done these things with them yet, and it's a really great space to be in if you can be in the space of enjoying your first time doing these things, whatever they are. And so there's going to be the first time, as I said before, that you're going to have the night alone. Like if you birthed in a birthing center and you stay overnight, or you birth in the hospital, you're going to be discharged and you go home that first night and everything's new. You've slept in your house many, many nights. You've been there with your wife many, many nights, but you haven't been there with your kiddo. So it's totally different. It's a totally different experience. And that's what makes it scary. But it also can be, once you get into the groove of things, a really fun space to be in, because if you're mindful of, hey, we're going to go do this for the first time, it can make it much more fun. So I remember the very first time that I went on a car ride with Nico. It was a while after he was born. I mean, typically, if you're birthing center, you drive home after the birth. Or if you're even in the hospital for a couple of days, you drive home from the hospital to home. So it's within a couple of days you've done that. But as I said before, Nico was born at home, and we didn't go anywhere for at least a week. We had the midwives, or the midwife, coming to our house. They were obviously there at the birth. They came the next day. They came 2 days later. They came a week after that. We had a lactation consultant come to the house, and Effie didn't really leave the house at all, and Nico didn't leave the house at all. And it wasn't necessarily that we were like scared of bringing him outside of like germs and all that kind of thing. I don't really live that life, but we just wanted to stay home, and I didn't want to put this little nugget in a car seat and be with him on the road. But our very first car ride that we went on was to the pediatrician. We'd had our midwife checking things out, but we wanted to go to the pediatrician. Usually families will do that sooner than a week and a half, but that's what we did. And I remember it being really funny, like trying to like get loaded up. And of course it takes like way longer than you ever expect, because there's so much swag you have to bring with you. And I don't think it happened this time, but invariably you finally get everything all settled, get into the car, and then you got to change the diaper. You got to start all over again, getting them back inside the car. So you're late everywhere as a new parent. And hopefully those people around you like understand you're a new parent and give you that slack. We do. Like if a new parent's on time for an appointment with me, I'm like, what's wrong with you guys? You're actually here on time. But it was nerve-wracking too, because you're like driving. But the first time I drove with Nico by myself in the car, I was really nervous. Irrationally nervous, because when it comes down to it, it's just a car ride. And I was thinking in my head, like, oh, well, what if he starts crying? Like, what if he's in the back seat and like nobody's in the back seat and we don't know what's wrong? And then it very quickly came to me like, oh, I'll pull the car over and find out what's going on. And I went on that ride, and it was really kind of, in a first sense, like I needed to get that one done so that it freed me up to do it more, because it's easy to kind of bubble yourself up in-house because it's easier there. It's not easy because of everything I talked about in the previous episodes, but it's easier to stay. But then you get feeling cooped up, and you're like, all right, I got to get out of here. So the first car ride was more stressful than it really had to been. I could have enjoyed it more of like, hey, like going for a car. This is what riding in a car is like. And you can't see what I'm seeing because you're facing backwards and your eyes don't really work, but you can make it fun that way of having that experience. Even if there's a restaurant that you've eaten at a million times because it's your favorite, the first time you go there with your child, it's a totally different experience. It's their first time, obviously, but it's your first time experiencing it as a dad with your baby, right? And there's the first time that your parents meet the kiddo, and the first time her parents meet the kiddo, and there's the first time he blows out a diaper and it's all over you, and there's the first time like he pees all over you or she pees all over you on the changing table. All those things can be really fun because firsts are fun. Firsts can be stressful because they're new, and depending on how you deal with new stuff, it can be even more stressful. But I know for me, there were times where I was really mindful of going through a first experience with my son, and I really, really relished it. And I look back and I know of all the different times where I was not in an appreciative mode, an enjoyment mode. I was in more stress mode. Then one, I really had to be, but I give myself some slack because I was a new dad like you are. I didn't know what I didn't know, right? But if you can go into those first days, weeks, and months, and then let's face it, it just always continues, right? Like the first soccer game, and the first time going to movie theater, and the first time eating a certain food, and the first time they have sugar, like first time you go to Disneyland, all that kind of stuff is so fun because and that's something I'll leave you with that I've experienced, and I hope you experience that. As a dad, and in general as a parent, you get to experience the world in a totally different way being a parent once you bring a baby into the world, and you look at the world in a different way. Every parent I've talked to has experienced that and understands what I mean by that when I bring that up. I didn't get that really when my friends and family were talking about that to me, anticipating his birth, but I totally get it now. So you, new dad, might not totally get that, but I hope you take it to heart to understand that, like when you're introducing the world to your son or to your daughter, you can't help but look at it differently. You look at it maybe a little more sweetly and gently because you understand like how magical life really is and how amazing things are. And then there's also like a more critical thing of like, wow, there is a lot of crap in the world that doesn't need to be here, and you want to like kind of guard them from it. And it might have been something that you as an adult, you're so filtered to it and used to it that it doesn't really register as a negative anymore. But when you have these innocent eyes looking upon it and this like innocent little soul experiencing it, you can't help but notice that things can be wonky, right? So you have your guard up in that way, but mostly like celebrating the sweetness with your kid is something that you can always come back to, and you might miss out on things and you might not be in that space, but the more you can consciously intentfully live your life like that, it'll one, make your experience of dadhood that much better, but it's also going to sweeten the experience of life for your kiddo because you have he or she has a conscious dad guiding them through life and exposing them to the awesome things that this world has to offer. And the reason why your kiddo chose you as their dad and her as the mom and chose this time coming into the world is to experience and love and experience all those great things. So doing that together in a conscious way is a gift It really is a gift if you allow yourself, and it's something that I continually try to bring myself back to, because there's so many stresses of parenthood and busyness and tiredness. All those things can get in the way of the true sweet experience that a large part of dadhood is. So that's my message for today about those series of firsts, is to really be conscious and aware of those things being firsts, so that you can enjoy them, and so that your enjoyment and you making that moment special, or understanding that moment as special, will sweeten the experience for your child. So until the next time, Dad, take good care of yourself, take good care of your families, and we'll connect on the next episode.
I hope you enjoyed that episode. You can hang out with other dads in our Facebook group. Just go to Facebook, search for the Dadhood Journey, and apply to get in. See you there, and see you on the next episode. Thanks for listening. Bye.
Perfect.
There you go, Dan.